Transformative is a series of short films that try and explain the history of fashion photography as seen from the perspective of the stylist, the makeup artist and the hairdresser.
When I moved across to work in New York, I was so shocked because I had exactly the same schooling you did. I went with Marcus Ohlsson, did the Yoji catalogues and the Jill Sander catalogues. I went across to work in New York, and they finish at 6.
Totally.
And literally,
and you get in the door. You get in the door, and you walk in there at 1 minute past 9, and you're like frowned on.
Yeah. The way that we both started was much more that you probably wouldn't start until 6 in the evening, and you'd work and work until sort of 3 or 4 in the morning for 3 or 4 days, if not 5 days. But you would find some sort of passion and some sort of artistry in the fact that you were all struggling desperately to get the image, but it might come at 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, and it felt a much more artistic way of working, shall we say?
Well, it was more crafted, wasn't it? It came from a more soulful place, and I think that's I guess that's a really great thing that kind of I learned from Marcus Ohlsson was the balance of different kind of messages in pictures. Yeah. There is a visual language, and you can say very, very subtle things with like almost, and make them really, really strong. Like I was looking at a Jill Sander picture the other day of Guinevere, and she's on a white background. She has a black suit on, and the chair is black, apart from what she's sitting on, which is blue velvet, but it's almost black. But the blue velvet in the picture just makes it. There's just this refinement. That's just.
But working with Mark was never easy. One shouldn't think that those schooling days that we both had were easy.
Yeah, but
I remember showing Mark images and he would just dismiss them one after another. Literally, I would be behind the camera for 3 or 4 hours until Mark approved of any image I did.
Yeah, but he does have a great sense of humour.
Oh, absolutely, I was not
I think that's it. That's the kind of like that's like the redeeming quality when you kind of work that intensely with someone, and they're quite brutal.
I wasn't meaning that.
No, he was
what
beautiful.
I meant is that, I find it quite, and I also found it quite hard when I started working with Mark. As you go onto a session, you start working, and the Pearson art director or whoever would work next to you would be happy on the first shot. You think, well, I haven't sweated blood for 5 hours. Well, how can you be happy already?
So but sometimes it's like that, though, isn't it? Sometimes, like the first 2 or 3 frames look really amazing, and you're like, oh no, I'm going to make it better. I'm going to make it better.
Yeah, just go round and round in circles.
And you go round and round in circles, but that's also part of the process. Even though you got it in the first 2 or 3 frames, when you've gone through the other process, you know that you've got it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. So I think that's it, and I think that comes down to a little experience too. I think that kind of helps.
Absolutely. All part of the learning process over a career, which is what I think. I'm going to move us on. These ones?
Oh yes.
Okay. Tell me who?
Steven Klein.
Okay. So, tell me a little bit about this set of pictures on my iPhone.
This is really weird. I was doing a Calvin Klein job with Steven Klein.
Right.
And we're just like, okay. And after the shoot, I just said, we've got to do something like really like creative.
Yeah.
Like we have to. We've got to do something. And he said, yeah, sure, let's do it. And I was kind of, I was researching something for the Chapman brothers.
Yeah.
Because they'd done these, made a chess set, a bronze chess set, and there were editions of them, and I was doing these kind of miniature kind of wigs.
Yeah, we'll go into that.
Okay, and I just stumbled on these kind of like Victorian pictures.
Yeah.
And I looked at one picture, and it was quite a haunting picture, and I thought, this is really strange. What is it about this picture? And I noticed, right, that one of these Victorian ladies had this kind of like leather, kind of like S&M harness underneath this kind of like beautiful kind of silk blouse, and I just thought, I really like that. I really like the idea that in the Victorian times people did stuff like this, and it was kind of hidden behind closed doors.
Yeah.
You know, it was, you know, I thought it was really amazing, and I just said, I'd really like to do these kind of like elaborate kind of day glow hairstyles with this kind of Victorian kind of portraiture.
Yeah.
And I just left it with him for a month, and he kind of came back to me with a really strange idea. He showed me some film. I think it was like a Czech film from like from the 90s that was really, it was just like one kind of take, but it was shot from underneath. Right. Like the perspective of it was just completely off.
Because Steven Klein, if I'm right in thinking, and please I hope this is correct, works with Joe Lally as his researcher. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I was like, this has nothing to do with what we talked about, but I really love it. Yeah. And we just kind of, we spent about a month actually, just backwards and forwards. I really want to do this colour of hair. I want to do something that kind of feels very, the idea evolved. And I said, I want to do something that feels very Technicolor, that's kind of got these kind of saturated kind of colours that are really, really intense, but there's like some depth to them. They're not just bright. Yeah. And he was like, great, like these are the girls that I like. I'm like, let's do like blood red, like really like heavy, deep, saturated blood red. Let's do like day glow yellow. Yeah. Let's do like dark green. It's almost black, like these kind of petrol colours. Yeah. And we ended up on the shoot, and I just thought, this set is amazing. I think Piers Hammer built this set, and it was Steven was underneath shooting through this huge thick piece of glass, and around on the top, that's where the models were. Yeah. And there was a room built around this sheet of glass, so it looked like there was no floor, and these girls were kind of floating.
I mean, his imagery,
it's just incredible. I just thought this is the best. If any accessories brand were bright enough to use this to just shoot from underneath a glass table with these objects on top of it, you know, I just thought the idea was amazing.
He's a very different photographer to a Craig or to an Ines.
Very.
His imagery is very heavy. Yeah. I mean, it's sexually very heavy. Yeah. And he's an important relationship in your career.
Yeah, I think. Do you know what? I think for me, I have huge respect for him because he's one of those photographers, right, that people just relinquish any power over. Right. Right. You know, you'll get someone like Brad Pitt that will just give themselves to him.
Why do you think that is?
I think he actually gives them an edge, right. And I really think that his pictures are sexually loaded, right? Absolutely. And they're quite heavy, and they're quite dark, but they're always beautiful, and they're a little torturous. And I think when people get in front of his lens, they are actually really acting. They're not just modelling. They are part of this scenario.
And Joe Lally, who does film for SHOWstudio, is an important part of his world.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think first and foremost they're really good friends. Yeah. I think they share a passion for image. Right. I think Joe is a director, makes films. I believe.
He makes films for SHOWstudio, amongst other places. But
and I just think Steven generally really respects him as a creative, and they just have a really a great dynamic. Yeah. You know, I think Steven works all the time. Well, I know he does. Yeah. You know, Joe, I think works all the time, but in a loose, much looser way.
Yeah.
And I think because Joe has more time to kind of find things,
right,
and look at things and spend time, he kind of gives Steven, I guess, a narrative,
right,
for what he does.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I was just really kind of surprised by that shoot, by what someone picked up from what I was saying, and took somewhere completely different. But I loved it.
Yeah, it's interesting because he's an incredibly different sort of photographer to a Craig or an Inez, and the imagery that he produces is very different things. So are the sessions very different?
Yeah, they're very different in mood.
Right, can you tell me about that?
Yeah, like Steven will play soundtracks.
Right.
That kind of are very, very moody, that put you in a
certain place.
Head place, for sure. Like you feel very differently working, you know, than you do on a shoot with Craig. It's not like, you know, like you work on a shoot with Craig and, you know, we'll be like, oh, let's put some Ty Segall on.
Yeah.
Or, you know, just like the OCs, like some like really good music.
Yeah.
Like there, you're like, whoa, you feel like you're in David Lynch land.
Really?
Yeah, really. You kind of feel very out of sync.
Right. Interesting. So the whole psychology.
And you just kind of like have to process what you're doing. You feel really out of sync, and you don't feel particularly comfortable.
Yeah.
But you are engaged.
Right.
Creatively.
Interesting.
With Craig, it's a completely different thing.
Yeah. Well, it's clear in the images. They're very, very different sorts of images.
Yeah, totally.